In 2015, a CNN reporter, Katie Kairos, and her cameraman went to a house in Hanover, Pennsylvania to film a segment about a woman named Deanna Simpson who said her home was haunted. Deanna claimed she'd been living with spirits for 7 years, and they weren't the friendly kind. She told the crew the ghosts had attacked her, her husband, and their pets, and that she'd heard voices and screaming at night. But it wasn't just what Deanna was describing that was creepy. Stuff started happening on camera. Cameraman Nick Petrillo suddenly felt something burning his hand. When he looked down, there were these fresh scratches on his wrist. Deanna didn't seem surprised either. It's because you're telling the story. They don't want it out there. That's their way of warning, she said, before sprinkling holy water on him. Kairos later said she also felt something touch and pinch her during the filming. The crew caught orbs on camera and watched a door slam shut after Deanna asked whatever it was there to show itself. Deanna told them she had recordings of voices like laughing children when no one else was home as well. And she said there were at least 5+ spirits living there. Some women here that are protecting me, but the majority are bad, dark forces, inhuman, she said. During a 2023 live episode of the Argentine TV show Fenómenos, co-host Matthias Bertolotti was in the middle of giving the weekend forecast when the show switched to one of their outdoor cameras, a live feed overlooking a quiet boardwalk in Corrientes City. Everything looked totally normal until a viewer at home spotted something off. People watched as what looked like a human figure ran across the boardwalk. Oh, a person ran along the boardwalk? Incredible story, James. Where do you find these things? Well, there's more to it than that. Take a look. It's semi-translucent, ghostly looking. When the host replayed the footage during the broadcast, both of them were clearly shaken. Bertolotti leaned in and said, "It's a person running and then vanishing. There are no legs." He told viewers there was no editing or trick involved. The feed was live the whole time. During a live news broadcast in the UK on February 1st, 2021, viewers caught something strange happening behind the anchor that had nothing to do with the story being read. Through the large studio windows, a glowing object zipped across the sky, bright, fast, clearly visible on camera. The clip started spreading almost immediately online, of course, especially after conspiracy blogger Scott C. Waring picked it up. Waring, who runs the site UFO Sightings Daily, posted the footage claiming it showed, quote, 100% proof of UFOs over London. He said he slowed down the video and noticed something even weirder, saying what looks like one UFO is actually two. The UFOs are flying side by side. He compared their movement to US Air Force jets that take off in pairs, saying the two lights seem to move in a wingman formation. The video was filmed during a standard live broadcast, nothing edited or staged. Some viewers thought it could have been a drone or reflection, but what do you think this thing was? During a live morning broadcast in Honduras, journalist Carlos Molina experienced something really odd. While reading viewer messages alongside his co-host Pablo Zapata, he suddenly froze as his glass of water just slid across the table. He also said that seconds before this even happened, he'd felt this chill run down his spine. Carlos made it clear no one on the crew was pulling a prank. I felt something strange in my body. The action didn't just demonstrate itself in the glass, but in me as well. What I felt was a supernatural phenomenon, a chill throughout my body before the glass moved, he said. The table was also flat, and apparently there were no strings or wires, and it all happened live on air. During a live feed from the International Space Station on January 5th, 2020, viewers watching NASA's stream noticed something strange drifting across the blackness of space. The camera showed what looked like a glowing object, faint but clearly moving during a broadcast that was supposed to be all about a scheduled spacewalk by astronauts Jessica Meir and Christina Koch. The clip was later shared on the YouTube channel Spacelink TV, and it shows a light gliding upward in the distance before slowly fading out of view. Researcher Thomas Mike Jensen was the first one to analyze it. At first he thought it might just be a lens reflection or a sun flare, but after studying the movement frame by frame, Jensen wasn't so sure. It was moving slowly, and it is far from the Earth. You can see it moving out of the picture, he said, pointing out that reflections don't usually pulsate or travel like that either. The light looked like it was moving independently. It didn't look like glare. No one ever confirmed what it actually was, and NASA never issued a statement about it. This one sent a shiver down my spine. So back in 2018, CBS Colorado reported this really eerie story on the news. Police in Pueblo, Colorado had received a phone call just before 3:30 in the morning. The person on the other end hung up, so the police called back. There was an answer, but the 911 dispatcher could only hear static on the other end of the phone and the occasional inaudible muttering. Take a listen to this.
Hello? Hello?
Now, phone interference isn't uncommon, sure, but what makes this call extra chilling is that it was coming from a funeral home and cemetery. Police were sent out to the place, called Imperial Memorial Gardens, to check things out, but when they got there, they found that the funeral home was totally locked up. No lights were on, and there was nobody there. No one living, that is, and that just gives me the willies. In 2019, 9 News Australia did a story on a pub owned by a man named Alistair Collins, who claims the place is haunted, and he had tons of late-night security footage to prove it. Yeah, it wasn't just one incident. There's footage of chairs moving on their own, umbrellas opening up, doors slamming. The place is just bustling with activity even long after it empties out for the night. At one point, the news anchor tries to recreate pulling a chair out in one smooth motion like it seemed to do on its own in one piece of security footage, and he couldn't quite repeat it. The ground is just too uneven, so I have to imagine doing something like this with string would be really difficult. They also try to repeat the umbrella opening on its own and find that it would be next to impossible for someone to open the umbrella and not be caught on camera. The creepiest bit comes from an electrician who had a ghostly encounter at the pub while doing renovations, though. He heard the small doors swinging right by the kitchen, followed by loud footsteps going up the stairs right next to them. He called out to the only other person in the pub at the time, who walked out from the kitchen. So they both went upstairs to check things out, only to find the top floor was totally empty. This is Kenneth Copeland. Now, if you've never heard of him, he's a televangelist who basically makes a living, a very good living, mind you, just screwing gullible, desperate people out of their money. He's actually told people in some of his sermons that if they only have 2 dimes to their name, to give 1 to the Lord. Through his church, of course, all so that he can buy more private planes, jet skis, mansions, and God knows what else. He's pretty much the devil, and the irony of that shouldn't be lost on anyone, but somehow there are still people who fall for his utter BS. Here he is talking in tongues. Now, it sounds to me like he's imitating Portuguese, not, communicating with some holy higher power. Again, I don't get the appeal of this guy. He doesn't even look friendly. He's got those beady little eyes. He looks deranged even when he's smiling. Just a real uncomfortable aura around this guy. In 2005, ABC 13 Action News in Las Vegas covered a man named Ramon Watkins, who referred to himself as Prophet Yahweh. He claimed that he could summon UFOs just by praying, and said he would prove it live on camera. Well, ABC sent a reporter, Mike Dello Stritto, and a cameraman to meet him near Lake Mead. The prophet prayed, and within moments, something strange appeared in the sky. It was 2 bright spherical objects, hovering and slowly moving in the distance. The cameraman caught them clearly on video as they floated across the sky. The footage aired live, and people who were watching could see it happen in real time. This wasn't a quick flash or something easily dismissed. It stayed visible long enough for everyone to focus on it. Prophet Yahweh said he heard a voice in his head telling him when the UFOs would appear and where to look. But was this really the case? I mean, that is obviously very hard to believe. Could the objects have been balloons, drones, aircraft? Maybe, but they didn't seem to move like any of those things. The ABC crew didn't offer an explanation, and the event still gets passed around online with no solid answer for what actually showed up in the sky that day. On August 5th, 2009, during a live morning news broadcast on BBC Northeast, anchor Colin Briggs was delivering the day's stories when something strange appeared on the screen behind him. It was this wide shot of the Millennium Bridge in Newcastle, coming from the BBC's live webcam feed. Suddenly, this white streak of light zips across the frame, not falling downward, but shooting further into the sky before disappearing. The object was fast moving, but clear enough that viewers noticed, and people started recording it from their televisions and quickly shared the clips online. Some said it was a bird, a toy plane, but it doesn't really look like either of those things to me, and it didn't to Nick Pope, who is a former UK Ministry of Defence UFO investigator. He reviewed the slowdown footage and said it didn't look like a bird and that the movement was genuinely strange. The BBC later did a follow-up asking for viewer opinions, but never provided a final answer or any definitive explanation for what happened. On February 11th, 2013, during an afternoon broadcast on KRTV in Great Falls, Montana, during an episode of the Steve Wilkos Show, the emergency alert system suddenly cut in. Thank God, everyone said. Why was I watching the Steve Wilkos Show? Suddenly, though, viewers heard this voice calmly announce that the, quote, bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living.
Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living.
The message warned people not to approach these zombies and to wait for further instructions. It sounded pretty official and used the same tones and format as real emergency alerts. Within hours, similar hoax messages interrupted TV stations in Michigan, Wisconsin, and New Mexico. Even more strange, 2 days later, a radio station in La Crosse, Wisconsin played a recording of the hoax alert and accidentally triggered the EAS again, rebroadcasting the zombie warning to viewers who thought it was happening all over again. Investigators later confirmed that hackers had exploited a weak security on the emergency broadcast equipment, in many cases using default passwords that were still active. The hackers were eventually caught, but as for how exactly they did this, that's never been disclosed, probably for obvious reasons. On January 3rd, 2007, people in Australia were watching Mayday Head-On Collision, a documentary about air travel disasters, when something very weird happened. In the middle of the broadcast on Channel 7, the original audio suddenly cut out and was replaced with a looping clip from an old news story about a Halliburton convoy ambush.
Lord, Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord. Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord.
The audio was just a truck driver named Preston Wheeler screaming, "Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord," over and over. The audio kept repeating that same line for 5 solid minutes while the visuals from the documentary kept playing. Nobody knew how this happened. One viewer said he kept calling the station while it was happening, but no one answered the phones. There was no follow-up, no investigation. Channel 7 just brushed it off and moved on. This one is very eerie, though. What you're seeing here is news coverage in Laos of a mysterious phenomenon known as the Naga fireballs. Every year in late October, crowds gather along the Mekong River in Thailand to watch red balls of light float up from the water and then vanish into the night sky. They're called Naga fireballs, and locals say they're caused by a giant serpent spirit that lives in the river. The orbs don't make any noise, they come out of nowhere and they rise fast, sometimes hundreds in one night. There's been a lot of debate about what's really going on here. A Thai documentary once claimed it was just tracer rounds being fired by soldiers across the river in Laos. Others have blamed flare guns or some kind of flammable gas bubbling up from the riverbed, like methane or phosphine, but none of those explanations totally hold up. The balls don't behave like flares, and scientists pointed out that the conditions needed for gas bubbles to ignite like that don't really line up. In 2021, during a strict curfew, officials made sure there were no people out with flares, and the fireballs still showed up. This footage was taken in downtown Milwaukee in 2018 during a live broadcast. The news anchors had no idea what they were looking at. Fireworks? Aliens? They joked. It's very strange. This doesn't even look like your typical UAP footage. These things aren't moving in any sort of recognizable pattern. They're just floating in every which direction. They almost look like ghosts zipping through the air than any artificial object. And there are so many of them. It's really cool, but if I saw this in person, I'd be pretty unsettled. What do you all think of this one? If someone can enlighten me as to what this could be, please share your thoughts down below. This next one comes from a 2017 episode of the British talk show This Morning, featuring a couple and their possessed doll. The chair it sat on started to rock on its own several times throughout the interview.
That chair's beginning to rock.
Rocking.
Look at that.
Who's doing that? Stop it.
The owner said that she and her husband had been walking by an antique store when they spotted a few old-looking dolls. The couple decided to buy a few of them because they were cheap and figured they might be able to flip them for more. Well, as soon as the dolls came home with them, strange things started to happen. They had one doll, the one they brought to the TV studio, sitting on the dresser in their room. Well, one morning the husband got up, hopped in the shower, and then suddenly felt this burning sensation on his leg.
And I looked down, and there was a lot of scratches all over my knee.
They put the doll in their shed inside a plastic bin. Well, a couple days later, the wife went in and opened the bin, only to find that somehow the doll's necklace had been removed, even though it had been wrapped up tightly on the doll initially. And that night she woke up at 2 a.m. hearing this whooshing noise moving past the bed, almost like the rustling of clothing, or more specifically, a dress. There was nothing there. They ended up selling the doll. Did Pope Francis vanish into thin air on live TV? This was filmed back in April of 2020. The Pope showed up at the window above St. Peter's Square to bless people affected by the pandemic. Then he turned around and walked back inside, only before he was out of camera range, he suddenly just vanishes. You don't see him slowly disappear into the shadows. He's just there 1 second, then he's not. It's pretty bizarre. It's hard to find the original news segment online too, because it was taken down for some reason. In 2010, a Jamaican news station covered a story about a boy who claimed that he was being haunted by a duppy, basically a ghost. And the news team captured 2 strange incidents on camera. First, the boy is sitting in a chair talking about the strange experiences when all of a sudden he flies backward, as if something is pulling him. Then later in the segment, the boy claims to see the spirit standing close by watching him, and then he gets pulled again. At least that's what it looks like. Now, notice how one of his legs is in the air as he continues to move backward. And then when his mom grabs him, his legs flip around like they're being grabbed at by someone, only we can't actually see anyone. It could be faked, but it is a damn good performance by this kid if it is. Alright, so at first glance, this just looks like some streaker running around a soccer field. If you're watching casually, you might even laugh it off, but the longer you watch, the weirder this footage is. This figure shows up from multiple camera angles, dashing through the crowd and along the edge of the field, and nobody reacts, at all. No one turns their head, no one flinches, it's like they don't even see it. Then you notice this thing doesn't look fully solid, it's kind of see-through. There's a moment where it looks like it passes right through a group of people. Plus, this person actually ends up on the field, and if you know anything about stadium security, you know the second someone who's not meant to be there steps foot on the grass, they're getting tackled and dragged off. But here, nothing happens. So in 1977, during a regular news broadcast in southern England, the audio suddenly cut out. The picture went all fuzzy, and there was this buzzing noise. Then a strange metallic voice cut in, claiming to be Vrillon from the Ashtar Galactic Command. And for nearly 6 minutes it delivered this bizarre message, warning humanity to stop fighting, destroy its weapons, and prepare for a great awakening. It also told viewers that they were being watched and guided by beings from other worlds. The station was completely unaware of what was going on until people started calling in. Engineers figured out someone had hijacked the signal by targeting a specific transmitter that rebroadcast signals from another tower, basically exploiting a weak point in the system. But even still, they never found out who actually did this. Whoever it was, though, needed some serious technical skill and equipment. People have analyzed every part of this message. Some say it was just a prank, others think it was someone who genuinely wanted to put this message out there. And then there are those who actually think this message was coming from somewhere up in space. I'd love to believe that, but I don't. Back in March of 2015, Coco 5 News in Oklahoma City was running a normal early morning traffic report. Nothing exciting, just the usual aerial feed from their Grand Casino Skycam out in Shawnee. But then, out of nowhere, this glowing white object zipped across the screen at lightning speed. It was super fast, too fast to be a plane, and the movement doesn't look like a drone either. The news anchors didn't even notice it live. Viewers caught it first and started flooding the station with questions. To their credit, the news station didn't ignore it. They re-aired the footage and posted it online, asking the public to help figure out what it was. Problem is, nobody really could. It wasn't a meteor, those fall, they don't fly sideways at a steady height. It wasn't a bug on the lens either, the light shifts as it moves and you could see it behind distant clouds. It wasn't a military or commercial aircraft as far as anyone could tell, and it didn't match any scheduled flights. Despite being caught live on air and analyzed frame by frame, nobody's ever nailed down exactly what this thing was. David Blaine's 2001 interview on GMTV is incredibly strange, so much so that it's kinda hard to watch, and if you were a super sheltered person who was genuinely freaked out by magicians and you tuned into this interview, you'd probably think David Blaine was possessed by some dark force that allowed him to perform his insane stunts and tricks. So Blaine came on the show to promote one of his stunts, but instead of answering questions like a normal person, he mostly just sat there silently staring. He barely blinked, barely moved.
I'm sure you're not going to tell me. Indeed.
And when he did speak, it was in this deep, monotone kind of drawl, and his answers were short. The host tried everything to break through, asked him normal stuff, asked him weirder stuff, even straight up said at one point, "Is this just part of the show?" Blaine didn't flinch, finally lifted his hand and showed an eye drawn on his palm, explaining in a flat, muffled tone, "It's protection from death."
Protection from death. Oh.
The interviewer later said it was one of the most awkward interviews of his career. Go figure. This clip is from a BBC documentary filmed in 1978, part of one of the most well-known paranormal cases ever, the Enfield poltergeist. A reporter named Rosalind Morris visited the Hodgson family in Enfield, London, and interviewed them multiple times. This clip shows Janet Hodgson, who was just a kid at the time, speaking in this deep, harsh voice she claimed belonged to a spirit named Bill.
No.
Who's there?
Doctor.
The Hodgsons said it started small. They'd hear knocking sounds, furniture would move around by itself, but then things started to get out of hand. Objects started flying across the room. Janet and her sister Margaret would get yanked out of bed. Janet started speaking in that raspy voice. Eventually, famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren showed up, and they backed the family up, saying the house was haunted by a poltergeist. Alright, one of the most uncomfortable and frustrating interviews I've ever seen is this Jim Carrey one. Oof. Now again, possessed in the traditional sense, no, but was he in some kind of state? Definitely. And it's hard to watch. It's very, very weird. So during a red carpet event at New York Fashion Week in 2017, Kat Sadler from E! News was trying to, just do her job. Have a normal chat with Jim Carrey, who seemed to just be going out of his way to make things uncomfortable. "There's no meaning to any of this," he said. "I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am." Sadler tried to keep things on track, mentioning that the party was celebrating icons, and then he's like, "I don't believe in icons. I don't believe in personalities. I believe that peace lies beyond personalities, beyond invention and disguise, beyond the red S you wear on your chest that makes bullets bounce off." And to really drive the existential dread home, he finishes off with, "This world is not our world, we don't matter." Okay, it's so pretentious. It's like a teenager who just had their first philosophy class and suddenly thinks they're just so above it all. "I know the truth, I see everything for what it really is." I don't know what Jim Carrey was going through at this point, but I think luckily he's become a bit more normal again, I think. I don't know. In 2012, a woman named Latoya Amons in Gary, Indiana claimed her house was infested with demons. She said her kids were getting possessed. One kid apparently levitated, another walked backwards up a hospital wall. And it wasn't just her saying these things. Multiple people, like doctors, nurses, police officers, DCS workers, claimed they saw really weird things happen. The case ended up getting so much attention that it reached the local police and the church, and that's when a priest named Father Michael Maginot performed multiple exorcisms, one of which was reportedly sanctioned by the Catholic Church itself. Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures eventually bought the house and made a whole documentary about it called Demon House. He claimed the place was so dangerous, he had to demolish it. In 1971, NBC aired something that had never really been done before on TV, an exorcism. Most audiences back then didn't even know what an exorcism was. I mean, sure, exorcisms had been around for a very long time, but they hadn't seeped into pop culture the way they have now. This was still 2 years before The Exorcist even came out, so to say audiences were shocked by this would be an understatement. The 6-minute segment documented the experiences of Edwin and Marcia Becker, a couple living in Chicago who claimed their home was haunted. Reporter Carol Simpson led the piece, which opened with an interview where the Beckers described unexplained activity in the house.
Cabinet doors were closing. Doors were opening, doors were closing.
This past week, they said they were awakened by the sound of a woman crying. It came from the dining room. but there was no one in the house but themselves.
I hated to think of what it was, Edwin went on to say during the interview. After the Catholic Church declined to help them, the Beckers contacted the Independent Spiritualist Church in Chicago. The exorcism was performed by Reverend William Darrell Davis and Joseph DeLuise, a medium. Everyone in the house, including the news crew, was asked to wear crucifixes for protection. At one point, Reverend DeLuise entered a trance and claimed to channel the voice of a spirit, an old woman who spoke through him, saying something about a lock combination.
Remember, the combination. Why did it concern you? It's important to me. Why did you stay here?
During the ritual, a strong gust of wind blew through the room, shaking the blinds, although that apparently happened off camera. The team also used a mirror, offered communion to the spirit, and spread blessed salt throughout the house. The broadcast ended with Simpson stating that the house had been quiet for several days since. In 2005, Channel 4 in the UK aired a show called The Exorcism, where they attempted a real exorcism on live television. A lot of viewers found it highly disturbing. The subject was a man named Colin, though, who claimed he was possessed by something that lived in his right foot. Apparently, this demonic foot spirit caused him to drive dangerously fast without being able to stop himself. That sounds like one of the worst excuses in court, but anyway, he tried everything else apparently, so Channel 4 decided to televise the exorcism to see if it would help. The network made a big deal out of this, calling it a scientific experiment and even bringing in psychiatrists and, of course, church officials to answer phones afterward in case viewers got freaked out. They did. Over 4,000 people called in after the broadcast. It ended up being one of Channel 4's most called about shows. During the actual exorcism, Colin didn't exactly start levitating or vomiting pea soup, but he did look tense and disturbed. And then after a bunch of prayers, he suddenly said, "That was the most relaxed deliverance I've ever had." So take from that what you will. If anyone has more information on this airing though, like if you actually saw it live, please share your thoughts down in the comments. In 2019, NBC did a report on a ghostly photograph taken at a Baltimore eatery called Bertha's Restaurant and Bar. According to one of the owners, Laura Norris, the place has been haunted for decades, and she's communicated with the entity on more than one occasion. Apparently the block that this restaurant is on is just full of ghosts. There's a ghost tour that starts at Bertha's, and one tourist captured this image right here. It looks a bit like some sort of ghostly figure reaching out of the third floor window, and there is said to be a ghost that stalks that very floor, the spirit of a young girl who's often seen skipping through the hallway. In 1991, ABC aired a pretty wild and unsettling episode of 2020 that showed an exorcism happening live. The girl at the center of it was named Gina, and she was from Florida. According to the church, Gina had been dealing with demonic possession, so they decided to perform an exorcism to get rid of whatever was tormenting her. There were two priests involved. One was just called Priest A, the other was Reverend James Labar, who thought that airing the exorcism would give, quote, hope to those who may be afflicted. The whole thing is a very uncomfortable watch. Gina is seen shaking and screaming, and just possession aside even, she was clearly going through something. Even for people who believe in possession, it was a chilling watch, but for others, it looked more like she was going through some serious psychological distress. After the exorcism, Gina was sent to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. She was released later on, but after that, no one really knows what happened to her. Back in 2014, ABC 7 covered a story about a strange creature captured by a couple in South Texas. Jackie Stocks told the news crew that her husband spotted a weird creature in the yard eating corn. The husband said he'd hunted raccoons and said he'd never heard one growl like this before.
Harma says one of the big signs it's not a raccoon is its growl.
Now, they also interviewed an apparent wildlife expert who looked at footage of the strange animal and said it was probably a canine with mange. Thing is, canines do not use their hands the way this thing does. I mean, have you ever seen your dog eat like this? I didn't think so. Wildlife expert, maybe go get a new career? I don't know. This footage was shown on One Indian News a few years ago. In Jharkhand, a group of bikers were riding along late at night when they saw this person walking along the side of the road. The video is pretty grainy, but you can still make out the figure. It looks pale, extremely thin, and moves in this weird, unnatural way. It doesn't seem to move its arms. It's like that character in Seinfeld that doesn't move when they walk. When it turns its head, it also seems to have these glowing yellowish eyes. So people online started commenting that this thing looked a lot like an alien. Of course, no one knows for sure what the bikers caught on camera, but whatever it is, I would be very uncomfortable seeing it anywhere at any time, let alone a rural road in the middle of the night. Back in 2019, 9 News Australia ran a story about a pub called the Tyler's Kiln. The pub is owned by a man named Alistair Collins, who's pretty convinced that the place is haunted. Collins had a whole collection of late-night security footage showing some really odd stuff happening after hours. Chairs are seen sliding out from tables all by themselves. Umbrellas suddenly pop open with no one around, and doors slam shut even though the place is completely empty. One of the news anchors even tried to recreate the chair moving like it did in the footage, but he couldn't really pull it off. The ground is just too uneven to smoothly drag the chair like that, and setting up a string or some trick would have been pretty tough without showing up on camera. They also tested how the umbrella could have opened on its own and figured it would have been nearly impossible to pull off without someone being caught in the frame. The creepiest story probably came from an electrician who was working there during some renovations. He heard small doors swinging near the kitchen and loud footsteps heading upstairs. He thought the only other person in the building had, of course, gone upstairs, but when he called out, said person came walking out of the kitchen right in front of him. So what was going on up there? Well, they went upstairs to check, and no one was there. The whole top floor was completely empty. I love stories like that. This next piece of footage still gets shared around online from time to time. Back in 2016, something strange happened during a Sky Sports broadcast. After a game, pundits Jamie Carragher and Phil Neville were chatting about the match, as sports commentators do, but eagle-eyed viewers at home noticed something weird in the background. There was a shadowy figure moving across the empty field. At first, it just looked like a regular groundskeeper doing cleanup, pushing equipment across the grass, but then the dude just vanishes. Viewers immediately jumped online to talk about what they saw. One person wrote, "Did anyone else notice the ghost groundsman?" Another said, "Monday Night Football, keep an eye out. There's an effing ghost groundsman in the Northeast." And someone else joked, "Ghost groundsman at the Stadium of Light. The ground needs an exorcism." No one from Sky Sports or the stadium ever confirmed what it actually was, and the pundits never addressed it. So what is this thing hovering in the sky? This footage is from a live news broadcast in Rio Branco, Brazil. On February 9th, 2009, TV Gazeta showed up to capture what witnesses described as a colorful object hovering over the city. Whatever this thing was, it changed color multiple times, flashing from blue to red to white. There were more than 25 witnesses that night who watched as this thing hovered in the sky for more than 2 hours. Then it moved from east to south and afterwards south to west. Pretty strange. Certainly doesn't look like a plane or satellite to me, and not that a drone would be totally unheard of in 2009. They certainly weren't as widely used as they are now, though. Till this day, we still don't know exactly what this thing was. Alright, this one's pretty ridiculous, but I do love me some possession videos. Always fun to see what weird noises these evil spirits force out of people's mouths. Back in 2016, something pretty strange happened on a Thai talk show. A model came on the show and told everyone that she had picked up a ghost while on vacation in the city of Rayong the year before. She said this ghost was a pop, a type of spirit in Thai culture that's known for having an uncontrollable hunger. At first, she just calmly explained what had happened to her. You know, ghost got inside my body somehow. Well, and then right in the middle of the interview, the pop just had to embarrass this poor woman on live television. To be fair though, she should have seen this coming. She'd been dealing with the thing's antics for a whole year at this point. Suddenly she seems to switch, like something else is talking through her. She started speaking in a different voice and just couldn't seem to snap out of it. No matter how much the hosts pushed her to stop, they kept telling the spirit to leave her alone, but it refused, making threats like, "Don't mess with me," which probably sounds a lot cooler in Thai. Then one of the hosts pulls out a necklace with a Buddha pendant. As soon as he held it up, she freaks out, screaming and recoiling in terror. Very loudly, I might add. I had to turn down the volume almost all the way because I was worried everyone was going to hear female screams through my headphones. and that I'd be kindly asked to leave the office. Eventually, the host puts the necklace on her though, and just like that, she seems to come back to her senses. The clip went viral in Thailand and racked up millions of views. Just what is it we're looking at here? Well, this aired on a local news station in Pueblo, Colorado, and the anchors were genuinely confused, as were a lot of people watching, as to what they were looking at. It's some weird looking animal with patchy black fur, a reddish face, and long skinny arms hunched over eating something off the ground. Apparently the woman who filmed the creature had actually seen it once before, but she had no idea what it was either. Other than an animal with mange, the word chupacabra was thrown around a lot. Well, later on, Colorado Parks and Wildlife officials looked into it and said the animal was probably a raccoon with mange. Mange is a skin disease that can cause animals to lose most of their fur and look pretty rough. I mean, you take the cutest furry animal on earth, shave all its hair off, and it looks pretty damn freaky. This image here was shared on news stations all over the world. Nobody knew what the hell this thing was when news first broke, and nobody knows what it is now, but it's since become known as the unidentified Amarillo object. In 2022, the Amarillo Zoo in Texas got a lot of attention after they shared a strange image caught on their security cameras. The picture was taken at 1:25 a.m. by a motion detecting camera showing a bizarre figure walking just outside the zoo fence. And what's creepy is that it's walking on two legs. Clearly though, this is not a person, unless they're wearing a costume, which is an odd thing to be doing at 1:30 in the morning, skulking around a zoo. When the zoo posted the image on Twitter, they leaned into the mystery, asking, is it a person with a strange hat who likes to walk at night, a chupacabra? Do you have any ideas of what this UAO, unidentified Amarillo object, could be? The zoo never outright claimed it was anything supernatural or like a cryptid or anything, but they didn't offer up any solid explanations either, because they didn't have one. Now, could this have been a weird marketing stunt? Maybe, but city officials and the zoo's director, Michael Kashiba, insisted the photo was not staged. And 3 years later, we still don't have any solid answers. Back in the early 90s, ABC's 2020 aired a segment that freaked a lot of people out as well. It featured a teenage girl named Gina being exorcised by a group of Pentecostal ministers. It was filmed and broadcast nationwide in 1991 for millions to see. The footage is pretty distressing. Gina was clearly not in a good way, eyes rolling, voice growling, body convulsing. She screams, jerks violently, and starts shouting things in this deep, raspy voice. According to the ministers, she was possessed by several entities, two of which were named Zion and Minga. Ministers surrounded her, prayed, and yelled for the entities to come out. Eventually, everything settles down and the demons are supposedly exorcised. Whether you believe in this or not, the footage is kinda disturbing. From what I can tell, this was not a staged segment. Even if it was just emotional overload or religious hysteria, it's sad watching a young girl go through something like this, all in front of cameras too. There's never been an update on Gina either. She ended up in psychiatric care soon after this segment aired. As for what she's up to now, if she's okay, we don't know. On August 19th, 1987, a man named Gary Stolman managed to get inside NBC's Burbank studio during the 4 p.m. news. At one point during the broadcast, he walked up behind reporter David Horowitz, pulled out a firearm, and forced him to read a bizarre statement live on air.
What is this? Let me see what it says.
Now, to say Gary Stolman was possessed here is a stretch, but he was in this eerily calm state considering the circumstances. He's almost robotic. It's very odd, and to the reporter's credit, he stayed pretty calm too, way more than I would have. He just started reading the paper, which was filled with wild claims about the CIA, mind control, and mental hospitals.
In 1981, by someone with connections at the CIA.
After the manifesto was read, Stolman just casually placed the firearm on the desk. Anchor John Beard quickly grabbed it, and security took Stolman into custody. Turns out, it wasn't even a real firearm. It was an unloaded BB. Very strange incident though. During a live call-in show on an Islamic TV channel, the hosts were doing a regular Q&A session when a woman called in saying she believed people had used black magic on her, and that a jinn, which is a type of supernatural being in Islamic belief, had possessed her. She said she'd been trying to fight it off with constant prayer, but it didn't seem to be working. At first she sounds calm, clearly distressed, but calm, and then it takes a turn. She starts making these weird animalistic noises, low growling, almost inhuman, and then a bit later, she just breaks into this loud manic laughter that comes out of nowhere. It's the kind of laughter that makes the hairs on your neck stand up. Now, whether this woman was actually possessed or not, who really knows? She was definitely dealing with something though, unless she was faking the whole thing, but it doesn't really matter. The call is freaky either way. This one always gives me the shivers. During the live coverage of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral on September 19, 2022, something really freaky was heard over the air. As the camera followed the hearse moving through London, viewers suddenly heard this.
That death is irreversible, and the fact that she's trapped.
As you can see,
a faint female voice whispers something, and then the broadcast immediately cuts back to the regular commentary. At the time, people weren't sure what they heard. Most people probably didn't even notice anything at first. But when someone posted the clip online, commenters determined that the voice said the death is irreversible in the fact that she's trapped. Did someone's microphone get picked up by mistake? Very likely, but that statement is just so chilling, isn't it? That death is irreversible and the fact that she's trapped? Not exactly comforting words to hear during a funeral. On November 26, 1977, viewers in southern England got way more than their usual Saturday evening programming. While ITN's Andrew Gardner was reading the news about clashes in Rhodesia, the broadcast suddenly went dead and was replaced by a deep buzzing sound, and then a voice started speaking. The voice claimed to be Vrilon, representing the Ashtar Galactic Command. For nearly 6 minutes it spoke. This is the voice of Vrilon, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you. For many years you have seen us as lights in the skies. We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your world. It went on to urge humans to remove their weapons, live in peace, and prepare for a great awakening as the planet entered the new age of Aquarius. At one point it warned there are many false prophets and guides at present operating on your world. They will suck your energy from you. Your inner divine self will protect you. And after 6 minutes, everything just went back to normal again. Investigators later found the hijack came through the Hannington transmitter, which rebroadcast an off-air signal from a nearby unauthorized transmitter. Apparently, someone with some serious skill had managed to override the signal. So even though this was a technical error, there were and still are a good number of people who actually do believe this message came from somewhere else. On August 5th, 2009, viewers tuning in to BBC North East's morning news saw something odd happening live on air. Anchor Colin Briggs was calmly reading the day's headlines, and behind him was a live webcam shot of the Millennium Bridge in Newcastle. Well, suddenly this bright white streak shot across the sky in the background. It wasn't falling down like a meteor would, it zipped upward, then vanished completely. Some started filming their TVs and uploading the clips to YouTube, convinced they'd just seen a UFO on live news. Others said it had to be a bird, maybe a toy plane, but the way it moved didn't really match either. Even Nick Pope, who used to investigate UFO reports from the UK Ministry of Defence, said the footage didn't look like a bird and that the movement was, quote, genuinely strange. The BBC later did a short follow-up asking viewers what they thought, but they never gave any real explanation. All these years later, nobody's managed to figure out exactly what flashed across the sky that morning. In 1971, NBC aired a segment that really shocked viewers, a real-life exorcism. At the time, most people didn't even know what an exorcism was. The 6-minute piece followed Edwin and Marcia Becker, a Chicago couple who claimed their house was haunted. Reporter Carol Simpson introduced the story, letting the Beckers describe the strange things happening at home. After the Catholic Church declined to get involved, the couple turned to the Independent Spiritualist Church in Chicago. The exorcism was led by Reverend William Darrell Davis and medium Joseph DeLuise. Everyone in the house, including the news crew, had to wear crucifixes for protection. At one point, DeLuise went into a trance and claimed to channel the voice of a spirit, an old woman speaking through him. While the ritual went on, a strong gust of wind shook the blinds. The team also used a mirror, offered communion to the spirit, and spread blessed salt around the rooms. Broadcast wrapped up with Simpson saying that the house had been quiet for several days since the exorcism, leaving viewers with this unsettling glimpse into a real haunting happening live on television. What is this thing hovering in the sky? This clip comes from a live news broadcast in Rio Branco, Brazil, back on February 9th, 2009. TV Gazeta had gone out to film after locals started reporting this weird, colorful object floating above the city. Camera caught it clearly, this glowing shape just hanging there. shifting colors from blue to red to white. More than 25 people saw it that night. Witnesses said it stayed up there for around 2 hours, barely moving before slowly drifting across the sky from east to south, then south to west. It didn't look like a plane, and it definitely wasn't acting like one. Drones existed back then, but in 2009 they weren't something you'd normally see flying over a city. Whatever this thing was, nobody ever managed to explain it. The broadcast just ended with everyone staring up, wondering what they were really looking at.
When a news crew went looking for ghost stories, they might have gotten more than they bargained for. In 2021, WNYT News Channel 13 in upstate New York did a live report from the Green Ridge Cemetery as part of a Halloween segment. Reporter Sam Hessler was on air in the pre-dawn hours, walking among the tombstones while a guide shared spooky historical tales. The broadcast went smoothly until viewers at home noticed something on their screens that even the crew on site missed. In the background, behind Sam, a misty white figure seemed to drift between the graves. It was brief and subtle, a flicker of what looked like a person or a fog moving fast. After the live shot, one astonished viewer alerted the station, and Sam herself was stunned reviewing the footage. She hadn't seen anything in person. WNYT later acknowledged the eerie moment, assuring folks the clip was unedited and truly aired live. The internet, of course, lit up with ghost caught on live TV posts and theories. Some paranormal enthusiasts called it one of the best accidental ghost sightings on a news broadcast, evidence of a spirit roaming the cemetery. Skeptics countered that it could have been a camera glitch, a passing car's headlights reflecting, or even a stray piece of insect or dust close to the lens creating a blur. The station's own write-up teased it as something almost too crazy to be real and encouraged viewers to watch and decide for themselves. You're watching HGTV and suddenly an emergency alert pops up warning that the end of the world is here. What do? That nightmare scenario actually happened to some TV viewers in Southern California in September 2017. Without warning, regular programming was interrupted by the emergency alert system. The typical alert banner scrolled, but then things got truly terrifying. A booming male voice came on and proclaimed, "Realize this, that in the last days extremely violent times will come." Imagine hearing that out of the blue on a Thursday morning and you're just trying to love it or list it. Understandably, people freaked out. It sounded like a prophecy of an imminent apocalypse or some wartime broadcast. As dramatic as it was, this turned out not to be the work of pranksters or an alien overlord, but simply a technical glitch and incredibly bad timing during a routine test of the emergency alert system. In short, the system glitched out and aired a fire and brimstone sermon by mistake. Cox and Spectrum cable customers heard what sounded like a doomsday warning, but it was just Pastor Chuck Swindoll quoting the Bible, 2 Timothy 3:1, on an FM station. Both the cable company and the FCC confirmed it was an error, not a hack, but not before scaring the heck out of viewers. In the middle of a live US Congress debate, viewers suddenly saw something Russian. In January 2017, politics junkies watching a C-SPAN online feed got a strange surprise. The feed, which was showing a live House of Representatives session, abruptly switched to Russia Today, the Kremlin-funded news channel, for about 10 minutes. Given that this occurred amid intense news about Russian cyber interference, many thought C-SPAN had been hacked by Russians in real time. C-SPAN quickly investigated and put out a statement. They didn't believe it was a hack, but rather a routing technical error. The leading theory is that some glitch caused the RT feed to literally overlap and replace the C-SPAN feed on their site. In simulation terms, it's like two different programs momentarily cross-wired. The timing, however, was almost comical. It happened just hours after a power outage oddly halted a Senate hearing about Russian hacking. Even Waters, whose speech was interrupted, remarked on the curious timing and demanded a clear explanation. Seeing Moscow news pop up in a US government broadcast felt like a scene from a spy movie, or a reminder that the simulation has a twisted sense of humor. Our final glitch was literally one word caught in an endless loop, and of course, that word was Russia. Russia. Also in January 2017, I guess a bad month for TV gremlins, MSNBC's show Hardball experienced a freaky moment. Journalist Dave Ignatius was talking to host Chris Matthews about, ironically, Russian interference in US politics. He said the word Russia and bang. The screen flickered and started repeating Russia, Russia, Russia over and over in a feedback loop. Chris Matthews looked confused as the glitch kept going for several seconds, echoing Russia in a creepy cadence until the control room cut to commercial. Given the climate at the time, Twitter exploded with jokes that Moscow hackers or the Kremlin Matrix had struck again, but most likely this was just a bizarre technical malfunction. Perhaps a failing satellite feed or encoding error that caused a few seconds of audio/video to loop. The fact it looped that particular word on that particular topic, well, that was gold for conspiracy lovers and also late-night comedians. MSNBC assured it wasn't intentional and nothing nefarious was found. If we do live in a simulation, it definitely has a flair for dramatic irony. Imagine watching a live news report and suddenly the reporter's words turn into total gibberish. That's exactly what happened during a CBS Los Angeles broadcast from the 2011 Grammy Awards. Viewers were stunned when reporter Serene Branson went from speaking normally to uttering a string of nonsensical sounds on live TV.
Well, a very, very heavy debatation tonight. We had a very Darrison.
She visibly panicked as she realized something was wrong, leading many to fear that she was having a stroke on air. Paramedics rushed to examine her, and thankfully, her vital signs were normal. It turned out Serene had suffered a complex migraine that mimicked stroke-like symptoms, causing sudden aphasia or speech impairment. In other words, her brain glitched, scrambling her speech. The clip went viral as a real-life Matrix moment, a healthy young reporter seemingly malfunctioning without warning. It was a scary sight, but also a relief when we learned it wasn't a true stroke. Still, for a few seconds of live TV, it felt like reality itself had briefly broken down. A famous weatherman suddenly freezes like an NPC caught in lag. On the Today Show in 2012, co-hosts Savannah Guthrie and Matt Lauer finished a silly dance joking about leaving room for the Holy Ghost between dance partners. That's when Al Roker, the beloved NBC weatherman, did the unthinkable. He stared directly into the camera, motionless with a goofy grin for a full 17 seconds. He didn't blink, didn't move a muscle. It was as if someone hit the pause button on Al Roker. Roker later explained that it was a bit of deadpan humor, essentially a brain freeze challenge he did on purpose. The show's director egged him on to see how long he could hold the pose, and Al committed to the bit. Even so, watching it back, many viewers felt a chill. The moment looked so uncanny that it's now a classic glitch in the Matrix clip. During a live soccer match, a shadow person sprinted through the stands, and no one can agree if it was a glitch, a ghost, or just a camera trick. This incident happened at a stadium in La Paz, Bolivia, during a Fox Sports broadcast in 2014. In the footage, you see a dark, human-shaped figure running rapidly across the lower tier seats straight through the crowd, yet no one in the audience seems to react to it. Viewers at home were creeped out. Was it a ghost caught on live TV? Rational explanations soon emerged. Lighting snafu or video artifact, basically a technical glitch that made a real person's image smear across the screen. But that hasn't stopped wild theories. The clip went viral, with some saying the stadium is haunted or that we witnessed a Matrix running program acting up. What's freakier than one person glitching? How about two people glitching together? Twin sisters Paula and Bridget Powers from Australia gave an interview that left viewers' jaws on the floor. They were recounting a dramatic carjacking incident involving their mother, but it wasn't the story that stole the show, it was how they told it. The twins spoke in a mesmerizing stereo, often saying the exact same words at the exact same time during the live interview.
So we drop everything and we went running out the front. We seen Mum running out from the house up there.
At times, one twin would start a sentence and the other would finish it in perfect sync, as if they shared one mind. The effect was so uncanny that the clip went viral worldwide, and even Jimmy Kimmel invited them on his show out of sheer fascination. The sisters themselves just laughed it off, saying their brains think alike at the same time after a lifetime together. Indeed, Paula and Bridget have spent 51 years dressing alike, working together, and practically living in parallel. So, while it seems paranormal, it's likely just an extraordinary sibling bond. Viewers thought they spotted a shape-shifting reptilian on the news, but the truth was more technological. In an old CTV news clip that resurfaced online, a female reporter delivers the headlines when suddenly her eyes appear to glitch. During a blink, her eyes don't look human for a split second, they seem fixed and glazed over, almost like a doll's, or a computer-rendered image. Experts explained that it was a rolling screen repaint artifact from the broadcast. Basically, this was an analog TV signal glitch. On old antenna TV, if the signal degrades at the wrong moment, in this case when she blinked, part of the previous frame's data can briefly hold on for a second. The result? Her eyes open from a prior frame overlaid on her face while blinking, creating a creepy illusion that her eyes blinked but didn't close? Technical or not, it looked really freaky, like an NPC in a video game failing to load its textures. Even after hearing the explanation, some joked, "Sure, that's what they want you to believe." This one isn't a glitch in the video, it's a glitch in the broadcast itself, and it's straight up like something out of a techno thriller. In November 1987, Chicago sportscaster Dan Roan was doing the nightly news when suddenly the signal hijacked. TV screens went black for a second, and then viewers were suddenly staring at a bizarre figure. Someone in a Max Headroom mask bobbing around in front of a swiveling metal background. No sound, just 30 seconds of this super creepy masked intruder. Engineers managed to regain control on that channel, but it wasn't over. About 2 hours later, during a Doctor Who episode on another station, Max Headroom hacker struck again, this time with audio. The masked person spoke in distorted garbles, laughed, moaned, even exposed their bare behind to the camera while being spanked with a fly swatter. Yeah, it was really weird. After about 90 seconds, the pirate broadcast ended. Viewers and station officials were completely baffled. Who was that? How did they break into major TV station signals? The Federal Communications Commission launched an investigation, but to this day, the culprits have still never been caught or identified. Even decades later, watching the Max Headroom incident on YouTube will give you a serious case of the heebie-jeebies. Somebody has the chance to have the best deathbed confession of all time. Imagine your grandfather, you're saying your final goodbyes, and he's like, "I was Max Headroom." That would be crazy.
On October 2nd, 2014, Colette Provencher was delivering a live weather report on TVA News from the rooftop of the network's building in Montreal. As she talked, a bright green orb floated across the sky behind her. She didn't notice anything at the time, but viewers definitely did. The footage spread online, and people started arguing about what the glowing object actually was. Some said it was just a meteor. Others pointed out that the object looked way too big and wasn't moving like a typical shooting star. It also seemed to slow down mid-flight, which doesn't make sense for a meteor. The orb stayed visible for several seconds and didn't burn out like you'd expect. What are we looking at here? Good question. This clip was posted to Reddit by user Steve90,000, who wrote that on December 13th, 2024 at 5 p.m., ABC News caught an orb on video when in New Jersey investigating the drone situation. At the time, tons of people were spotting UAPs over the state. So what you're looking at here is just one of them. As for what it actually was, we still don't know. On April 27th, 1986, HBO viewers were watching The Falcon and the Snowman when their screens suddenly cut to black, and for about 5 minutes, a message appeared in bright white text on a color test pattern that read, "Good evening, HBO, from Captain Midnight. $12.95 a month? No way." The broadcast had been hijacked. The person behind it was John R. McDougall, a satellite engineer who was frustrated with HBO's pricing, which he felt was unfair to satellite dish owners who had to pay monthly fees for content that used to be free. McDougall later admitted that he'd used his own satellite equipment at a Florida transmission site to briefly override HBO's signal. He knew exactly how to aim his dish and transmit at just the right frequency to cut into their feed. Authorities launched an investigation, and within a few months, he was caught. He was fined and given probation, so yeah, the guy was identified, but I just had to bring this one up. The fact that this guy successfully interrupted one of the largest cable networks without immediate detection is pretty nuts. This is one of the most high-profile broadcast intrusions in US history. In 2021, Sam Hessler, a reporter for CBS 6, was doing a live morning segment from Greenbridge Cemetery in Saratoga County, New York. At the time, everything seemed perfectly normal. Nobody on set noticed anything unusual. It wasn't until later that day when a viewer contacted the station saying they'd seen something strange walking behind her during the broadcast. When the news team went back to review the footage, they spotted it too. Some sort of figure crossing the background. It almost looked like it appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. The clip got passed around and people slowed it down to try and figure out what it was. In the slowed version, you can clearly see a shadowy form moving across the screen. Now, Greenridge Cemetery already has a bit of a spooky reputation. There have been stories of eerie things there over the years. You can imagine the details. Nothing super out of the ordinary for a cemetery. But to have something captured on live television like this, that hits a little different. The reptilian conspiracy is one of the more out there theories floating around, but somehow it's got a pretty big following, partly thanks to supposed footage of it. The idea is that some of the world's most powerful people, your politicians, singers, actors, that they're not actually human, that they're instead these shape-shifting reptilian creatures wearing human skin suits as a disguise while secretly pulling the strings behind all the world's biggest decisions. What's kept this conspiracy alive for so long is what some claim to be video evidence. Over the years, live TV has supposedly caught these lizard people slipping up. There are clips of news anchors and politicians where their pupils briefly look like vertical slits instead of round human eyes. Sometimes their faces seem to glitch, momentarily revealing what looks like snake-like patches of skin underneath. Plenty of people have slowed these clips down, zoomed in, and picked apart the footage frame by frame, and then posted top 10 lists online talking about it. Well, I gotta talk about it. I know it, you know it, but that's because this is the wildest live broadcast hack in history, the Max Headroom incident, still unsolved. On November 22nd, 1987, on the evening news on WGN in Chicago, the screen suddenly cut to a man wearing a Max Headroom mask, a character from a TV show around that time. The man didn't say anything at first, he just stood there as this background behind him was spinning around, making strange movements, and you also heard a bit of a buzzing noise. The station quickly cut the feed, got back to the news. It only lasted about 20 seconds, but that wasn't the end of it. Just 2 hours later, during a broadcast of Doctor Who on the local PBS station, the same masked man took over again, and this time he started talking, mumbling phrases that made no sense, mocking TV personalities, even getting spanked with a fly swatter by someone off camera. It's a mix of emotions watching this footage. It's undoubtedly eerie, but you can't say there isn't humor in this too. The whole thing lasted about 90 seconds before the station finally managed to cut him off. The Federal Communications Commission launched an investigation, but they never caught the person responsible. To this day, no one knows who did it or exactly how they pulled it off. Why even? Breaking into live broadcasts like this is not easy. It would have required a lot of knowledge and skill. It's considered one of the weirdest unsolved broadcast intrusions ever.
Next up at number 8 is Rihanna. I refuse to believe that Riri could be an evil reptile alien sent here to wreak havoc and cause evil, because number 1, she's like the chillest human ever, and 2, I mean, she's Rihanna, so I don't want it to be true. But it looks like even the good ones aren't safe according to believers of the lizard people. The proof comes from some kinda sus footage from what looks like a live talk show or something, and even though it's a bit blurry, it does look like there's something weird going on. If you pay close attention, it does appear that her eyes turn into slits for just a millisecond before turning back to normal. I mean, should we be worried? Could she really be a lizard person? I mean, even if she was, she would easily be the most beautiful lizard person I've ever seen, so at least there's that. Coming in at number 7 is Angelina Jolie. From what I have come to understand about the conspiracy race of the shape-shifting reptiles that walk the earth with us, is that more often than not, it is the eyes that give them away. Maybe their eyes are the hardest to control shape-shifting wise? I'm not totally sure, to be honest, but either way, there are definitely some strange videos out there with some weird things going on in the eyeball region. One of these videos is of A-lister Angelina Jolie. In this particular interview, you can see she's blinking her eyes a ton, which you might not think much of, but when you zoom in really tight and slow down the footage, you can see that there is a half a millisecond where it looks like her pupils elongate into slits before snapping right back into normal. My question is, does the blinking have anything to do with the trying to control their eyes from changing? Again, I have no clue what's true and have no facts to back that up, but the video is for sure a little strange. Next up at number 6 is Shakira. Once again, another pop princess with the voice of an angel has been accused of being one of the evil lizard people sent to destroy the planet. The clip that caused the uproar is from an interview a few years ago where, yep, you guessed it, her eyes slightly change shape for a millisecond. For starters, her eyes are already quite dark, so it's a little hard to tell at first, but when the video gets slowed down and you zoom in, I will admit I can kind of see where people are going with the whole eyes changing thing. There is a moment where it does kind of look like her pupils shift into a thinner shape, and dare I say the iris kind of goes more coppery? Is that a sign? I have no idea. Truth be told, it might not be quite as obvious as some of the other ones on the list, but nonetheless, there are many out there that insist she is among the shapeshifters. Apparently, it's not just her hips that don't lie, but her eyes too.
Coming into number 5, we have an atomic bomb. On a Sunday morning Czech TV show Panorama, viewers were convinced that the Prague countryside was being bombed. The show is intended to attract tourists and generally shows live footage of idyllic landscapes. On the 17th of June 2007, the signal was cleverly hijacked. What looked like scenes from the usual show broadcast an atomic bomb being detonated over the land. This sent viewers into an absolute panic. Now, government officials were even concerned that Prague was being bombed. It turned out it was an elaborate hoax, but it took a few minutes to realize that. The hoax was actually a performance piece from a group called Zetoven. Coming into number 4, we have news of the zombie apocalypse. In 2013, TV viewers in Montana were stunned when Steve Wilko's show on KRTV was interrupted by hackers. Pranksters interrupted the show to warn of a zombie apocalypse, saying that bodies of the dead were rising from their graves. They stated that updates would be posted as soon as new information became available. The mayhem happened amid an episode of Wilko's show about teen cheaters taking a lie detector test. Now, the hack was a voiceover only and warned viewers not to approach the zombies as they're extremely dangerous. Immediately after the hack was taken down, KPTV released a statement. They said the situation was under control and yes, it was just a hack.
Have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the messages on screen that will be updated as information becomes available.
Coming into number 3, we have the first of Max Headroom's appearances. On November the 22nd, 1987, the Chicago 9 o'clock news was interrupted on WGN-TV. Instead of host Dan Ronan discussing the Bears' victory over the Detroit Lions, the audience got a man in a mock news reporter suit wearing a creepy Max Headroom mask with sunglasses and a frozen grin. All audiences could hear was static. All they could see was the maniac moving around as if he was being spanked. Now, it appears the TV signal was hijacked for 30 seconds. When the signal finally made it back to the studio, Ronan nervously laughed. Well, if you're wondering what happened, so am I. On this day, the creepy intruder became an icon. Now, we're building on this at number 2. That's right, coming in at number 2, we have the first time that Max Headroom speaks. Later, the same hijacker interrupted an episode of Doctor Who for around 90 seconds. In the secondary hijack, the plot thickened even even further. This man got even creepier. The first hijack had no audio, but the second was a rant. The creepy hijacker spouted about Coca-Cola, Chuck Swirsky, and a dirty glove. After some weird lunging at the camera and head swishing and singing, the hijacker's bare bottom is spanked by an off-camera French maid. Making the whole saga even weirder, over 30 years later, we still have no idea who is responsible for the hijacking. Finally, most terrifying of all, because the threats were actually founded in reality, we have a very real declaration of war. In July 2006, Lebanese fighters fired shots over the Israeli border. This led to a 34-day war in which Israel retaliated hard. Israeli hackers took control of the Islamic Lebanese political party Hezbollah's TV station. They sent out a very chilling message of war. The hijacked signals started showing images of dead Hezbollah guerrilla soldiers. An image of the political party leader Hassan Nasrallah was then shown, along with the sound of gunshots and a voice saying your day is coming. Coming in at number 10, we have Handy Manny interrupted by porn. Early on a weekday morning in May 2007, kids in New Jersey, USA were eating their breakfast and watching a Disney Channel show, Handy Manny. Unfortunately, instead of seeing their favorite tool-wielding handyman, they saw, a tool-wielding handyman, but not a very kid-friendly one. Where is he putting that tool? It's the question. That's right, the broadcast was interrupted by hardcore pornography, which must have been pretty terrifying for the kids, but more so for the parents who found their kids watching it. Comcast, the cable network that Handy Manny was airing on, apologized but never commented on how the interference came to be or who was behind it.
The video is so graphic we can't show it, and it goes on for almost 6 straight minutes.
Coming into number 9, we have a scary old couple conspiracy. In July 2007, ABC affiliate WJLA had their signal interrupted and something weird flashed up on the screen. It was a spooky picture and a grainy image of two elderly people. There was no sound involved, just the image. Creepy, but not that bad, right? Sure. However, the plot thickens. The cable company brushed over it, saying it was a programming mix-up from an earlier Oprah show. Okay, fine, so then why were all the video clips of the hijacking removed from YouTube immediately after? A lot of people think that the network was covering up for something way more sinister. Coming into number 8, we have Captain Midnight's protest. In 1986, a disgruntled electrical engineer named John McDougal was seriously peed at HBO for their high subscription prices. At the time, it was around $12.95 a month, which is about $30 today. McDougal called himself Captain Midnight and threatened to hijack stations periodically, targeting Showtime next. Coming into number 7, we have the Wyoming incident. In 2008, it is said that a local news network in Wyoming was broadcasting some coverage of the general election. However, the broadcast was interrupted by black and grey stripes with text reading, "You will see such pretty things." This was followed by clips of disembodied human heads. Apparently, the pirate broadcast was shown at such a high frequency that it made some viewers vomit. Now, you can read a lot about the Wyoming incident on a creepypasta site or urban legend sites. However, I've been unable to find an official news source. This leads me to believe that it is just that, an urban legend. Coming into number 6, we have aliens on Southern television. On November the 26th, 1977, a scary alien voice interrupted a British TV broadcast at 5:10 in the afternoon on ITV. Hijacking the Hannington transmitter, a scary speaker interrupted transmissions for 6 whole minutes. Now, they claimed to be an alien called Virillan from the Intergalactic Association. With a distorted voice, Virillan said that all weapons of mass evil must be removed. He warned that humanity has a short time to learn to live together in peace. The voice implored humanity to remain peaceful so that we could be part of the Great Awakening of the Age of Aquarius. The hijack was vocal only, and later ITV called the hijacker breakthrough in sound. The identity of the hijacker has never been found. Perhaps it was aliens warning us.
Alright, this is an interesting one, because it's not what happened on TV that was the mysterious part, but what was going on with viewers while the broadcast was happening. So in 1992, the BBC banned it for a decade. In November of 2024, a local New York TV station was doing live helicopter coverage of traffic over the Hudson River. Same old stuff, until this strange glowing orb floats into the frame, hovering, changing color, then darting out of view. It starts out white and then turns blue and kind of semi-translucent before flying off. The anchor didn't react at the moment, but when the clip was shared online, people started talking about it. Some blamed lens flares, some guessed maybe it was a drone, others said a weather balloon, but the object didn't behave like any of those. It hovered, it changed color, then accelerated. Not even the FAA had an answer.
Coming in at number 5 is Lady Gaga. Okay, let me make one thing very clear. I'm a huge fan of Lady Gaga. Like, huge. I think she's an amazing artist and just a super badass person. All of that being said, I am fully aware that many people think she's a total weirdo, and like, if lizard people did turn out to be real, I could see why people would suspect Gaga to be one. I mean, if anything, what is more camp than being a shape-shifting reptile masquerading as a human, right? The main clip that brought Gaga into the suspect list of shapeshifters was from a live interview several years back, and just like almost every alleged lizard person, the clues were in her eyes. Now, first off, her eye makeup, gorgeous, but if you peer a little deeper into those eyes, you might notice something kinda looks off. She looks down for a second, blinks her eyes, and then just ever so slightly you can see that it looks like her pupils change shape and get slightly thinner for a second. Then boom, back to normal. Also, she did once say in an interview that she has always loved to shapeshift. I mean, she was talking about her hair and makeup, but was it a clue? Is this solid proof she's a lizard person from the constellation of Draco? I guess it depends on who you ask. Next up at number 4 is Isaiah Carey. Several years back in 1995, there was a reporter for NBC who became an overnight sensation after a hilarious video of him swallowing a grasshopper aired during a live broadcast. People kind of fell in love with him because he had such a huge reaction and totally switched up his entire demeanor after he accidentally swallowed the bug. However, not too long after, some people noticed something was a little off about the video, and some even started to wonder if swallowing the bug was an accident at all. What's strange about this video is that if you pay close enough attention, kinda looks like his tongue is actually aiming for the bug, just like a frog reaching for a fly. Not to mention, he has quite a big tongue compared to most people, and it kinda looks a little pointy. Either way, after he swallows the bug, he immediately turns away from the camera, and some have suggested this is to hide any further evidence that he was actively shapeshifting at the time. But also, I would probably turn away from a camera if a bug flew into my mouth without warning too. I don't know, man. Either way, the video is hilarious, so let me know what you think. Evil reptile or funny human? Coming in at number 3 is a mysterious creature. So this video is definitely one of the weirder ones on this list, cause like actually what the heck is happening? Inside what appears to be some sort of cave, a pair of glowing orb eyeball things peek out from behind the wall, but when whoever is actually holding the camera advances on them, they quickly retreat back behind the wall. Like, not gonna lie, it's kind of creepy. The creature then continues to peek out to see if the cameraman is gone before stepping out completely, showing its unnerving form, and then suddenly bolting away deeper into the cave, never to be seen again. Now, the real question, of course, what is it? Is it a shapeshifter, a weird alien, some other weird thing we have never heard of or seen before? I mean, all I know is I would not want to see that alone in a dark cave by myself. I just have a bad feeling it would kill me and eat my flesh. I'm just saying. Coming in at number 2, a security guard. It goes without saying that presidents are not going to really go anywhere without their security guards. But what do we really know about their security? And if there is reason to believe that politicians themselves are a part of the alien lizard race, then wouldn't it make sense that their protection would be too? Well, speaking of, back in 2012, during a speech made by President Obama, footage of the audience captured captured a peculiar looking security guard in the crowd. At first glance, you might think it's just like a pale, bald dude standing there, but when they pan to the side, it straight up looks like he has no ears. I mean, what is going on here? It's giving Voldemort, if you ask me. Even weirder is when the video zooms in. If you really pay attention, it kind of looks like his head is pulsating, which, truth be told, I have no clue what that could be about, but lots of people have come forward saying it's definitely footage of him shape-shifting right before our eyes. I mean, would that mean that everyone in the CIA is a lizard person, or just a select few? I want to know how it's decided what people get taken over by the alien lizard overlords. What is their system is all. I'm just wondering. And last up today in our #1 spot is Timothy Geithner. As I mentioned, it's not just A-list movie star celebs that have been accused of being a part of the lizard race taking over mankind. Among some of the most accused are politicians and even the staff that work under them. Former Secretary of the Treasury under President Obama's presidency is among one of those that some have come to believe is a dangerous lizard person hiding behind the face of a human man. The clip that raised some eyebrows and added him into the long list of potential involved personnel came from some kind of speech, and it definitely is very odd. Unlike most of the others on this list, it wasn't his eyes that had people questioning him, but the skin surrounding them. For a moment in the video, it looks like Timothy shifts into his reptile form, and the scales begin to show through the skin around his eyes, until suddenly he touches his face and it magically disappears. Like, could this be faked? I mean, of course it could, it's the internet. But like, was it? Or is it just a really super creepy video proving an alien race of lizard people? Starting us off at the #10 spot is the late Queen Elizabeth II. So it's no secret that there are quite a lot of people out there who are not fans of the royal family. And while for some it might just be about an overall lack of likeness towards the monarchy, there are many out there whose hatred stems from a deep-seated belief that everyone in the royal family are in fact shape-shifting lizard people. This all started from some footage that was found online of the Queen, where some particularly strange eyes seem to appear out of nowhere. In the video, the Queen is standing at what appears to be a game of sorts, and then all of a sudden her eyes change to look almost like some sort of crazy demon. Immediately people were freaked and jumped to the conclusion that it was because she was a shape-shifting lizard. But others blew it off as just her having bloodshot eyes. Now, listen, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a bloodshot eye that was completely black before. I'm just saying. As you can imagine, this footage did not help the royal family's rep of being from the constellation Draco, and only further cemented the belief that they are all evil lizards. What do you think? Coming in at #9 is Katy Perry. So here's the thing about lizard people. They tend to be exclusively pinned on celebrities. Now there is some reasoning behind this. It's because the shapeshifters are supposed to be evil, and so they take over the bodies of celebrities or leaders in order to be able to have the power to wreak havoc on our world. One of the celebs that people swear is a lizard is none other than Miss Teenage Dream herself, Katy Perry. The footage that brought her into this world comes from an interview she did years ago, where for just a millisecond it appears like her eyes change color from a sort of blue to green, and just for a second it looks like her pupils turn into slits. Oh, I should mention that apparently a calling card of these lizard people is that they have green eyes, so her eyes supposedly changing to green was seen as proof of her real lizard self peeking through. Suspicious? You tell me.